My narcissistic mother tried to take my kids away from me, 38F, and my husband, 41M, had been happily married for 15 years. We had 2 beautiful children, a son, 12M, and a daughter, 9F. Life was good, or so I thought. Little did I know that a storm was brewing within my own family, a storm that would rock the very foundations of our lives. My parents, Mom, 62F, and Dad, 65M, had always been a bit overbearing. They were the kind of people who thought they knew what was best for everyone else, and they weren't afraid to voice their opinions, whether they were wanted or not. Still, I loved them dearly, and I tried my best to maintain a good relationship with them, despite their occasional meddling. Things took a turn for the worse when my dad was diagnosed with a terminal illness. The news hit us all hard, but my parents seemed to handle it differently. While my dad became more introspective and appreciative of the time he had left, my mom became increasingly bitter and resentful. She started lashing out at everyone around her, including me and my husband. She would criticize our parenting choices, our careers, and even our appearances. It was as if she was taking out all her anger and frustration on us. At first, we tried to be understanding. We knew she was going through a difficult time, and we wanted to support her, but as the months went by, her behavior only became more erratic and abusive. One day, my husband came home from work looking visibly shaken. He had received a call from his sister, who had overheard a conversation between my parents that had left her deeply disturbed. Apparently, my mom had been secretly plotting to take custody of our children. She had been telling anyone who would listen that we were unfit parents, and that she would be better suited to raise our kids. I was stunned. How could my own mother do something so underhanded and deceitful? We had always been loving and attentive parents, and our children were happy and well-adjusted. There was no justification for her actions. As if that wasn't enough, my sister-in-law also revealed that my mom had been spreading vicious rumors about my husband and me. She had been telling people that we were neglectful, that we were irresponsible with money, and that we were even verbally and emotionally abusive to our children. None of it was true, of course, but the damage had been done. My husband's reputation at work had taken a hit, and some of our friends had started to distance themselves from us. We were devastated. We had always tried to be good, honest people, and now our own family was tarnishing our names for no apparent reason. We decided to confront my parents head-on. We sat them down and laid out all the evidence we had gathered, from the overheard conversations to the rumors that had been circulating. My dad was horrified. He had no idea what my mom had been up to, and he apologized profusely for her behavior. My mom, on the other hand, remained defiant. She doubled down on her accusations, claiming that she was only looking out for the best interests of her grandchildren. She insisted that we were unfit parents and that she was justified in her actions. The confrontation quickly escalated into a heated argument, with both sides shouting and accusing the other of wrongdoing. In the end, we stormed out, vowing to take legal action if necessary. In the days that followed, the situation only grew more tense. My mom continued to spread lies and rumors, and she even went so far as to file a complaint with Child Protective Services, alleging that we were neglecting and abusing our children. Of course, the allegations were unfounded, but the mere act of involving the authorities was enough to shake us to our core. We had always prided ourselves on being loving and responsible parents, and the thought of having our parenting abilities questioned was devastating. We knew we had to take action, but we were also hesitant to completely cut ties with my parents. Despite everything, they were still family, and we wanted to give them a chance to make things right. We decided to give my parents one last chance. We arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a small cafe in town, and we laid out our terms. We demanded that my mom retract all the lies she had told, and that she issue a public apology for her actions. We also insisted that she seek counseling to address her anger and resentment issues. At first, my mom refused. She was adamant that she had done nothing wrong, and that we were the ones who needed to change our ways. But as the conversation dragged on, and we presented more and more evidence of her misdeeds, she began to waver. Finally, after hours of tense negotiation, she agreed to our terms. She promised to retract her statements and to seek help for her issues. We left the cafe feeling cautiously optimistic. Unfortunately, our optimism was short-lived. In the days and weeks that followed, my mom made no effort to uphold her end of the bargain. She continued to spread rumors and lies, and she refused to seek counseling. We were at our wits' end. We had tried everything we could to resolve the situation peacefully, but my mom was determined to make our lives a living hell. It was then that we made the difficult decision to take legal action. We hired a lawyer and began the process of filing for a restraining order against my mom. The legal proceedings were long and arduous. My mom fought us every step of the way, hiring her own team of lawyers and dragging the case out for months. In the meantime, the stress and anxiety were taking a toll on our family. Our children were confused and upset, and our once happy home had become a battleground. Still, we persevered. We knew that we were in the right, and we were determined to protect our family from my mom's toxic behavior. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the judge ruled in our favor. A restraining order was issued, prohibiting my mom from coming within 500 feet of our home or our children's schools. We thought that the restraining order would be the end of it, but we were wrong. My mom, in her twisted mind, saw it as a challenge, a game to be won at all costs. She began to stalk us, showing up at our workplaces, our favorite restaurants, and even our children's extracurricular activities. She would follow us in her car, honking her horn and shouting obscenities. We were living in constant fear, never knowing when or where she would strike next. Our children were terrified, and we were at our wits' end. That's when we decided to take drastic measures. We hired a private investigator to gather evidence of my mom's stalking and harassment. We documented every incident, every phone call, every threatening message. Armed with a mountain of evidence, we went back to court and filed for an extension of the restraining order, along with charges of stalking and harassment. The legal battle was brutal, but in the end, the judge saw the truth. My mom was found guilty of stalking and harassment, and she was sentenced to 6 months in jail. With my mom behind bars, we finally felt like we could breathe again. The constant stress and fear had taken a toll on our family, but we were determined to move forward and heal. We sought counseling, both individually and as a family, to help us process the trauma we had endured. It was a long and difficult journey, but slowly, we began to piece our lives back together. One of the most difficult aspects of the aftermath was dealing with the fallout from my dad. While he had initially been horrified by my mom's actions, he had eventually sided with her, convinced that we were the ones in the wrong. He refused to speak to us or see our children, and he even went so far as to file for grandparents' rights, hoping to gain visitation against our wishes. We were heartbroken, but we stood our ground. We had been through too much to let him back into our lives and potentially put our children at risk again. The emotional aftermath of the ordeal was perhaps the most difficult part of all. Our children, once carefree and happy, had become withdrawn and anxious. They struggled with nightmares and trust issues, and it broke our hearts to see them suffering. We did everything we could to help them heal, from therapy to family activities designed to create new, positive memories. It was a slow and often frustrating process, but gradually, we began to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Looking back on the experience, it's hard to believe that we endured so much at the hands of our own family. What started as a difficult situation quickly spiraled into a living nightmare, one that nearly tore our family apart. But through it all, we remained strong and united. We refused to let my mom's toxic behavior define us, and we emerged from the ordeal more resilient and more appreciative of the love and support we have for one another. While the scars may never fully heal, we know that we have the strength to overcome anything life throws our way. And for that, we are eternally grateful. Break Story 2. Me, 38F, and my husband, 40M, had been trying for a baby for years. After multiple rounds of IVF and heartbreaking miscarriages, we finally welcomed our miracle baby, a beautiful little girl named Emma. My husband's sister, Jenna, 36F, and her husband, Ryan, 38M, already had 2 kids of their own, and they were less than thrilled about our bundle of joy. Jenna had always been the envious and narcissistic type, constantly seeking attention and validation. She couldn't stand the idea of someone else being in the spotlight, even if it was her own brother and his wife celebrating the birth of their first child. From the moment Emma was born, Jenna and Ryan made it clear that they disapproved of our parenting choices. They constantly criticized everything we did, from the way we dressed Emma to the way we disciplined her. They even went so far as to make snide comments about Emma's appearance, implying that she wasn't as cute or smart as their own children. At first, we tried to brush it off, thinking that they were just jealous and would eventually come around. But as Emma grew older, their behavior only became more toxic. They would show up unannounced and try to undermine our authority in front of Emma, telling her that she didn't have to listen to us because Auntie Jenna and Uncle Ryan know better. Things came to a head when Emma turned 5 years old. We had planned a small birthday party for her, inviting just a few of her closest friends and our immediate family. Jenna and Ryan showed up with their 2 kids in tow, as well as a massive pile of presents that dwarfed anything else Emma had received. At first, we thought it was just their usual over-the-top behavior, but as the party went on, we realized that something more sinister was at play. Jenna and Ryan had clearly coached their kids to upstage Emma at every turn, encouraging them to hog the attention and make Emma feel inferior on her own birthday. As Emma opened her presents, Jenna and Ryan's kids would loudly proclaim how much better and more expensive their gifts were. They even went so far as to mock some of Emma's more modest presents, calling them lame and boring. My husband and I were mortified, but every time we tried to intervene, Jenna and Ryan would brush us off, insisting that they were just joking around and that we were being too sensitive. It was a nightmare, and by the end of the party, Emma was in tears, feeling like her special day had been completely overshadowed by her cousin's cruel behavior. After the guests had left and Emma was tucked into bed, my husband and I decided to confront Jenna and Ryan about their despicable behavior. We invited them over to our house, hoping to have a calm, rational discussion about setting boundaries and treating Emma with respect. However, from the moment they walked through the door, it was clear that they had no intention of taking responsibility for their actions. Jenna immediately went on the defensive, accusing us of being oversensitive and overprotective parents who couldn't take a joke. Ryan chimed in, saying that we were just jealous of their kids' natural charisma and that we should be grateful they were giving Emma a taste of the real world. He even had the audacity to suggest that their behavior would toughen her up and prepare her for the challenges of life. We were flabbergasted. How could they be so callous and cruel, especially toward their own niece? We tried to reason with them, explaining how their actions had deeply hurt Emma and damaged her self-confidence, but they simply wouldn't listen. Jenna and Ryan remained defiant, insisting that they had done nothing wrong and that we were the ones overreacting. They even went so far as to accuse us of being ungrateful for the expensive gifts they had bought Emma, as if that somehow excused their abusive behavior. It was clear that they had no intention of apologizing or changing their ways. In fact, they seemed to take a perverse pleasure in tormenting us and our daughter. At that moment, I knew that we had to take drastic action to protect Emma from their toxic influence. We gave Jenna and Ryan one final chance to see reason, but they just laughed in our faces. That's when my husband snapped. He told them in no uncertain terms that they were no longer welcome in our home or in Emma's life until they could learn to treat her with basic human decency. Jenna and Ryan were outraged, accusing us of being controlling and overprotective. They stormed out, shouting and cursing, and threatened to take legal action if we tried to keep them away from Emma. It was a toxic, messy situation, but we knew we had to stand our ground for Emma's sake. We were prepared to do whatever it took to shield her from their cruelty. In the weeks that followed, Jenna and Ryan made good on their threats. They bombarded us with angry phone calls and emails, demanding that we allow them to see Emma. They even showed up at our house unannounced, pounding on the door and causing a scene until we called the police to have them removed. It was a nightmare, and the stress started to take a toll on our family. Emma, who had once been a happy and carefree child, became anxious and withdrawn, constantly asking if her aunt and uncle were going to show up and ruin her day again. We knew we had to take more drastic measures to protect Emma, so we consulted with a lawyer about obtaining a restraining order against Jenna and Ryan. The lawyer advised us to document every instance of harassment and keep detailed records of their abusive behavior. We also started looking into ways to legally sever our relationship with them, such as cutting off financial ties and removing them from our wills. It was a painful decision, but we knew it was necessary to create a safe and healthy environment for Emma. Jenna and Ryan, of course, were enraged by our actions. They accused us of being control freaks and alienating them from their own family. But we stood firm, determined to do whatever it took to protect our daughter. The final straw came when Jenna and Ryan took their campaign of harassment to a new level. They started showing up at Emma's school, trying to confront her and badmouth us in front of her teachers and classmates. That was the last straw. We immediately went to the police and filed for a restraining order, citing their pattern of abusive behavior and their refusal to respect our wishes as parents. To our relief, the judge granted the order, prohibiting Jenna and Ryan from coming within a certain distance of Emma or our home. We finally had the legal protection we needed to keep our daughter safe. Jenna and Ryan, of course, were furious about the restraining order. They threatened to sue us for alienation of affection and accused us of brainwashing Emma against them. Our lawyer advised us to stand firm and document every interaction, no matter how minor. We kept meticulous records of their threats and harassment, building an airtight case against them. In the end, they never followed through on their legal threats, likely realizing that their own abusive behavior would be used against them in court. The restraining order remained in place, giving us the peace of mind we needed to focus on Emma's well-being. With the legal battle behind us, We were finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. Jenna and Ryan were forced to stay away, and we no longer had to worry about them showing up unannounced or causing a scene. We also took the opportunity to reevaluate our relationship with them and set firm boundaries. We cut off all financial ties and removed them from our wills, making it clear that their toxic behavior had burned too many bridges. It was a difficult decision, but one that we knew was necessary for the sake of our family's emotional and mental well-being. We were finally free from their constant harassment and manipulation. With the legal and practical matters settled, we turned our focus to Emma's emotional recovery. The years of abuse and trauma at the hands of her aunt and uncle had taken a toll, and she was struggling with anxiety and low self-esteem. We enrolled her in counseling, where she was able to work through her feelings in a safe and supportive environment. It was a long and difficult process, but gradually, we saw her confidence and happiness returning. We also made a concerted effort to surround her with positive influences and role models, reinforcing the message that she was loved, valued, and deserving of respect. It was a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit, even in the face of adversity. Looking back on our ordeal with Jenna and Ryan, it's hard to believe that we were once a close-knit family. Their narcissistic behavior and cruelty toward our daughter was truly unforgivable, and we knew that cutting them out of our lives was the only way to protect Emma's well-being. It was a difficult and painful decision, but one that ultimately brought us closer together as a family. We learned the importance of setting boundaries and standing up for ourselves, even against those who are supposed to love and support us. Emma is now a thriving teenager, confident and secure in herself, and we like to think that our unwavering support and protection during those difficult years played a role in her emotional growth and resilience. While the scars of Jenna and Ryan's abuse may never fully heal, we take solace in the fact that we did everything in our power to shield our daughter from their toxicity. And for that, we have no regrets.